middle tier. These are teams that passed, but they could definitely use some improvement. And some of them went out and made some improvements in the coaching front or in the recruiting front. And that list is going to be Auburn, Kentucky, LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. These are our B's and our C's. Off the top, I want to talk about Oklahoma because B plus for a 10-win season, that kind of feels like a low mark. But, again, the standard that Oklahoma has put out on the field over the last decade plus, that's a little bit below their standards, right? Losing games to Kansas and Oklahoma State, losing that bowl game to Arkansas. I know they had a lot of opt-outs. I know they've dealt with a lot of transfer issues, but, still the offense is humming. And the defense was much improved this year for Oklahoma. If you're looking for a bright spot, it's that for Oklahoma. Your offense is still in really good hands, I think, and your defense is improving slowly. If you can keep getting talent into Norman, you're going to be not, the dominant giant of the Big 12, but I think you're going to do okay in the SEC. With these other programs, you can clearly see what's holding them back is a fatal flaw, right? Whether that's the abysmal defense. That was the only F- that I handed out just because of how big the discrepancy was between the offense and the defense at LSU.
LSU does not play defense.
LSU does not play defense.
And it's not a lack of talent either. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, that's going to be, historians are going to look back in 100 years and just wonder how LSU's defense dropped off so much under a defensive-minded head coach in Brian Kelly. And yeah, you're right. It wasn't because of talent. It was not for lack of talent. Texas A&M with the offense kind of holding them back. Even still, Jimbo Fisher's fingerprints were all over that offense this year, and it was still sluggish, and quarterback injuries aplenty. Quarterback or lack of quarterback play in the case of, someone like Auburn. Kentucky, they were probably the most disappointing offensive team for me because of what we thought they could do with Devin Leary coming in. Garrett, any storylines stand out to you in this group? I know it's like kind of middle of the pack, maybe a little underachieving for most of these teams. None of these programs want to be in this zone. They're passing, but not great. What stands out to you?
When I look at these teams, I think obviously you have some with just the fatal flaw, right? Auburn doesn't play offense, right? LSU doesn't play defense. And there were some times when that really bit these teams this year. You saw flashes from all these teams is kind of the big thing. You saw moments where these teams, okay, hold on, there's something going on here, right? Auburn took Georgia to the wire. Auburn took Bama to the wire. You're looking at Auburn, you're saying, okay, well, how about this? And then you have to look over the glaring weaknesses, right? Auburn losing to New Mexico State out of conference. You look at teams like even like Tennessee, losing important games on your schedule has to matter, right? And even like Oklahoma, which you just mentioned, they got some of the results on the field they wanted. They did beat Texas. That's a plus for Oklahoma. But you then have to turn that around and say, well, you lost Bedlam. And by the way, that's going to be permanent scoreboard until they play that game again.
Yep.
And also, you lose your bowl game to an Arizona team coming into the conference that you're leaving. And so you kind of have that weird, asymmetrical, like, okay, well, Arizona beat us and they're leaving the conference that we were just in, but we're going to a conference we think it's supposed to be better, but like this team just beat us. So are we even ready for that? Leaves a lot of Oklahoma fans, I think, a little uneasy, despite how good the offense looked. And by the way, losing a transfer to that. For me, the team that's kind of the unfortunate casualty of this is Tennessee, though. When I look at Tennessee, this feels like the guy who's, almost old enough for the adult table, but not quite, right? Like he's kind of on that edge where like Tennessee doesn't belong in the middle tier. Tennessee was a good football team, but they weren't quite good. Like they weren't quite great. You know what I mean? They win their bowl game pretty big. Nico showed a lot in that bowl game. I think they're going to have a really good future there with Tennessee, but they just kind of stalled. They had a chance with Bama and then forgot how to play football in the second half. And man, you just look at Tennessee. I think when I look at Tennessee, I think, man, opportunities wasted, a team not quite ready, a team that didn't know what to do in the post Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt era. And hopefully they're figuring some of that out with the new quarterback and getting some of those guys in there. I want to see Tennessee take that step forward, though, right? They weren't in that tier this year. I think they can be next year.
Well, and losing to Florida and losing to Missouri, no shame in losing to Missouri this year, but losing to Florida really held them back, right? If you flip that result, if you give them a win in the Swamp, maybe this season looks a lot better. I think that would give them 10 wins, right? That would push them up to 10-3. So you're probably feeling a lot more optimistic. That's why they get a B, right? It's not a catastrophic failure for Josh Heupel. Joe Milton was not Hendon Hooker. And, it showed on the field this fall. Like they just didn't have that X factor that really put them over the top. And that's why they're sitting at a B and not a B plus or an A.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Gracious him. How about